It's just, you say Putin played him like a fiddle, but gee, how hard is it? All you need to do is flatter the man. European leaders are now rushing to Washington, probably as we speak, to talk to Trump, along with Ukraine's president is going to. It is unprecedented, as far as I can recall, for that many world leaders to rush to Washington at exactly the same time to try to talk a president into or out of something. Why this packed response?
Well, you know, Putin is a powerful bully and Trump gives in to powerful bullies. Zelensky is much less powerful and Trump therefore likes to bully much less powerful people. So the idea is that with all these NATO leaders in the room with him, it'll be harder for Trump to bully Zelensky. Now, critical as I am of Trump, and I think this latest passage is one of the most despicable things I've ever seen. Nonetheless, this is a civilisational-wide failure by the West. Europe itself is many, many, many times richer than Russia. Its combined economy would be 10 times the size of Russia's. Europe has known about Russian aggression at least since 2014 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Europe has not itself turned to a military competent economy producing enough missiles, enough bombs and all the rest of it to arm even Ukraine against Russia. But if Europe wants to do this, even if Trump bails out, which would be utterly despicable, Europe could nonetheless supply Ukraine itself from its own resources. So as well as lecturing Trump, Trump deserves to be lectured. The Europeans are going to have to play this very carefully because too many people playing a chess game doesn't always work out well. But if Trump does bug out of history here, the Europeans have the resources to arm and support Ukraine if they have the will to do it. And, you know, they themselves have been guilty of gross inaction all the way through this saga of Russian aggression.
Look, on that very point, you're so correct. I read a credible statistic. Russia isn't just being supplied, of course, by Iran and under the counter by China, but by North Korea. North Korea alone has sent Russia more artillery munitions than Europe and America combined have sent to Ukraine. More. And it's committed soldiers. None of the Europeans have. That is a huge difference. The Prime Minister today said he would consider sending Australian peacekeepers to Ukraine if there is a peace deal, something the opposition, foolishly in my opinion, said it was against during the election campaign. Here he is.
If there is a peace and if there is a global response to that in the form of peacekeeping, then we would consider any proposal at the time. That would be a matter for the Cabinet.
I'm almost out of time, Greg, but is the Prime Minister right to consider sending peacekeepers if there is a peace deal?
Well, in a way he is, Andrew, but this is all smoke and mirrors from the Prime Minister. The most ridiculous hollow talk. We've got the smallest army that you could ever imagine. I mean, if we send 27 peacekeepers over, we can no longer defend Northern Australia. You know, I mean, how about a Prime Minister who talked a bit less and actually produced an Australian Defence Force? We've got no soldiers, no missiles, no drones, no ships, no nothing. Meanwhile, we're moving at a million miles an hour away from our only security partner, the United States. It's showing itself unreliable, so we're doing nothing to provide for ourselves. But Albanese now, all his buddies are on the European left. He doesn't identify with Washington anymore. So, you know, he could send, you know, I suppose he could send 6 people from his personal security unit from the AFP or something. That would just about exhaust us militarily. And as he said, we're certainly not going to send soldiers to fight there or anywhere else. I just think, you know, Albanese's remarks are... I agree with you, the opposition was foolish to rule it out, but honestly, this is just kind of, you know, Albanese just talks in a kind of fantasy land. Australian politics is fantasy now.
So true, so true. On that point, by the way, that last point about our relationship with America, you wrote a terrific piece in The Australian on Saturday. I urge people to read it. We'll discuss a little bit more about that after the break. Greg Sheridan, thank you very much indeed for your time.